There's this idea that people are just supposed to get over things. And if they don't just quickly and easily get over things, it's like, what's your deal? What's your problem? What's your problem? And so when we look at breaking generational curses and generational trauma, we need to really do the spiritual healing, the emotional healing through the things that have happened to us as children, so that we're not walking around with children, but yet we still have childhood PTSD of our own, right? Get back, Cersei. Be a good girl. I know. I feel like at some point on social media, my name was Danie, Breaker of Chains, which is like a reference to Game of Thrones, if you're familiar with it. You see what I'm saying? Like, Cersei does not come around at all around me until get out of that garbage. Until I'm filming. Gone. A part of being respected, I guess, is like being feared. And I don't want her to fear me. And it's bad enough that like she sees how I handle other situations. She understands that like I can be spazzy and I can get heated, you know? That's why I always feel bad for animals in abusive homes. And I've even seen, we've seen it on YouTube, you know? So why do I bring that up? I know that people who have kids are like, don't compare your animal to my kids. And I'm not going to. I'm going to discuss the parallels, if you will, but obviously there's no comparison to being a pet owner versus like having children, right? But raising children is something that I like to talk about because it's something that I'm not new to. I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. I've often talked on here about how I feel like my childhood was essentially sacrificed to raising kids, raising other people's kids. They weren't mine, right? I was a kid, right? But yeah, in raising and helping to raise, I won't, say like I raised them as in it was like literally only me in the house running around helping. But I will say that I helped a hell of a lot more than the average sibling ever would. I won't lie, I genuinely enjoyed it back then. I genuinely enjoyed knowing, hey, if I step up, the people that I love, my younger siblings or my siblings, right, get to have a better experience just because I stepped up, right? I did enjoy that. I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like that's not something that any kid should have to deal with. I know kids experience that to varying degrees, but like the degree to which I experienced it, no kid should have to experience that. That responsibility of literally the lives of your younger siblings on your shoulders because there's no adult around that feels that way. So before we move on to Tommie and her daughter and T.I. and his daughter, please go ahead and hit the notification bell and go ahead and check out my Patreon. I want to discuss not just Tommie and her daughter or T.I. and his daughter and how they've handled these situations, how those situations are really a microcosm for what's going on in the general collective. Right? Let's talk T.I. and his daughter first. I mean, that's a pretty widely known issue, which is why I talk about it. That's been a well-known issue about not only what he did, which was to say in a radio interview that basically he like ensures at his daughter's doctor visits that she still got her V card. He said that at a radio interview about a young girl, a young lady, who is in school, is just starting to come into her own, if you will. And then her father, this is like real life, right? Gets on the radio or on an interview. I don't know if it was radio, YouTube, one of those, right? I think it was radio. And says this thing about his daughter, right? And what his daughter, Deyjah, confirms about that experience is that it led to older creepy men messaging her on her various social medias about what she does when they weren't doing that before. You see what I'm saying? I think that her father is very defensive about it because he doesn't want to own up to the fact that he caused this immense amount of, if nothing else, emotional stress for his daughter. And I believe she's his oldest daughter, right? So it's like firstborn daughter. That's what she's conveying, and that's what he needs to own up to. And so when we talk about generational curses, we talk about, you know, the conversation her grandmother had with her, her father's mother. And she's telling her grandmother how traumatic what her father did, how traumatizing that was for her, and how that has negatively impacted her life, and that she's not dealing with it well. It's not something that she dusted the dirt off your shoulder, right? And the Black community, the Black collective, there's this idea that people are just supposed to get over things. People are just supposed to get over things. And if they don't just quickly and easily get over things, it's like, what's your deal? What's your problem? What's your problem? Do you know what you did? I've been there. I've been there. That's basically my whole life has been, as a Black woman, having there be no accountability for the things that people have done to me as an unambiguous Black woman. Why are you not getting over it? That's the first sentence. Before they say sorry, they want to know why you're not getting over it. Why that's not your journey with what happened to you. If I do something to you, Black woman, you should be getting over it. If I do something to you, Black woman, you should be able to dust that dirt off your shoulder, right? If I do something to you, Black woman, you need to hurry up and turn that around so that you can keep on doing stuff for me, right? I just had so much empathy for Deyjah in this situation because we see it all the time. And I'm gonna be honest, I feel like my great-grandmother wasn't someone like that. You know, my great-grandmother would be like, oh, so-and-so can't come here, so-and-so can't come here. That's where I get my name from, Steel. So-and-so can't come here, so-and-so can't come here. You know, you'd be like, why? It's like, you know, don't worry about it too much, but, you know, nasty person, nasty man, right? But not everyone has that. And I think a lot of the time when the situation is that people who grew up like me in terms of poverty or, you know, whatever, more or less than in situations of as far as abuse and neglect, you know, Black people growing up in poverty. And as we get older and the generations get older, people are saying, okay, well, I'm making more money. You don't have to deal with someone that's constantly on drugs. You don't have to deal with someone that's an alcoholic. And I make more money, obviously, than the adults that raised me. So you need to get over this. Right? And that's why I feel like Tommie and a lot of other parents, and Tommie is a young parent to a teenager. She talks about having children when she was a teenager, which is a large reason why she doesn't want her daughter to go through the same thing, right? Which is kind of insulting, I guess, you know, right? You'd be like, what the hell? Like, what are you, it was that bad that you're sitting there telling me to like not have my baby? That's essentially what's being said, right? Is that there were so many instances when I didn't know when I would make the next payment for rent, the next payment for gas and electric, buy some more Pampers or baby food or formula. I didn't know when I'd be able to do that and how I was going to get it done. And or I had to do a lot of things I didn't want to do and reach out to people I didn't want to reach out to get this stuff for you. And I don't want you to feel like you have to do that. Right? Because I also don't want to essentially be the extra parent here. I feel Tommie and a lot of women in her situation who grew up rough and were determined to give their child more, but ended up working so much that they weren't able to give that time. I feel like essentially this is what they're saying, right, to their daughters. However, you can't skimp out on the time. You can't skimp out on the time. And I feel like that's a large part of the breaking of generational curses. People feel like, hey, you know, I make more money, or I make a lot more money, right? And or I'm not addicted to crack cocaine, right? So my job here is done. I've done better than the people before me. Okay, have you? Have you? You know, because you make a little bit more money, which statistically everyone makes more money than like the people before them, because that's just how money works, really. You know, but people are patting themselves on the back. They're having children. They're not thinking, right? They're not thinking about ending generational trauma and curses by ensuring that when they have their child, they can focus time and attention to their child, so they can know what's going on in their child's life, and the child can build trust with them, and that maybe they won't end up being a teen mother like they were. It just comes down to, like, you're not doing the work, but you expect the work to be done. The work wasn't just that you made more money. The work is doing work, like what work entails. I've noticed there can be a definite selfishness when it comes to women having children, where they just feel like, well, it's my right, it's my body, I want to do it. But then when the child gets here, they asking everybody else for help. Like, shouldn't you be asking your baby daddy for help? You decided to have this child. You didn't know what kind of man you was messing with. You didn't know what kind of man you was messing with, but you decided to have a child. That's not breaking generational curses. That's not breaking generational trauma. That's not doing the work. But everybody wants to pat themselves on the back because they're not also addicted to drugs, and they're making, you know, more money than their parents had. Also, my kids can have nicer things than I had. Okay, but there are kids who grew up as poor as you, but their parents were there, and they feel like they had a good childhood because they were loved, times were hard, and they got through it. If a child doesn't feel loved within their family, they're gonna go looking for it elsewhere. Like a lot of people, I went looking for it elsewhere in friendships, which is bizarre, I know, but I also understood that I didn't need to be in an intimate, romantic relationship with anybody when I was young, point blank period, because y'all ain't have money like that. I more so looked to fill the void I had at home in my achievements in school and extracurriculars and work than like looking for a boyfriend, you know. But I also went to an all-girls high school, so not that I didn't interact with guys, but I didn't go out of my way to interact with guys. So with both Tommie Lee, I think that's her name, Tommie Lee, from Love and Hip Hop, right? With both Tommie Lee and Tommie Lee, is that her name? And T.I. I think these are two people who grew up having a hard life to various degrees because they were raised by single mothers and or felt like they had to raise themselves, and, you know, they didn't have a lot of resources. And so they feel like, well, I've given my child, you know, financially more resources than was given to me. Okay, yes, and that's great, but that's not enough. It's just not enough. A kid needs someone that cares about them. And so when we look at breaking generational curses and generational trauma, we need to really do the spiritual healing, the emotional healing through the things that have happened to us as children, so that we're not walking around with children, but yet we still have childhood PTSD of our own, right? And we still have a bunch of hang-ups from things that have happened to us. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Definitely gonna talk more about breaking generational curses and generational trauma, because I just feel like there's not enough emphasis on it. And unlike a lot of people on social media and online, care about kids. If we're talking about people that need to be helped and need to be saved and need to be protected, I'm gonna talk about the kids, because they're the ones that need it first and foremost, always. I have friends who, they read parenting books to figure out how they can be a better parent and handle things differently than when they were growing up. And even though they had great parents, they still want to be even better parents to their children, right? That's what I'm on. That's what I'm on. And that's what every parent needs to be on. I think a lot of times people feel like my child should be grateful to me. But like, shouldn't parents also be thankful for this child choosing them to come into the world too? You know what I'm saying? And to show them that. Show them that. Show them how important they are and how thankful you are that they're a part of your family. Start there. Read a parenting book. You're not above reading a parenting book. Even if you, like me, and you raised your younger siblings and or you work with kids, you're not above reading a parenting book. There are plenty of people I know who are educators, they're great with kids, they work with kids their whole lives as well. They read parenting books, right? To figure out, how can I handle this in a better way, in a more productive way that will ensure that my child has a relationship with me and doesn't just fear me, right? So, all right, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.